Hello, my students, to our new session in Varieties 1. We are actually still working on the language of spoken English. Now, in this session, we're going to be focusing on aspects of language and vocabulary in spoken English. So, to find out more, let's get started. So, in terms of adjectives, speakers make good deal of the use of adjectives in conversation. There are two prominent types of adjectives here. That is to say, in the extracts A and B, if we read these two extracts and we circle the adjectives that we have, we will find, that most of the adjectives are short and simple, and they are classified as easy adjectives like good, nice, great, small, big, active, beautiful, quick, and many other similar examples of adjectives that we use them on a daily basis. Now, the function of the preference of such adjectives is to make comprehension and communication easier, quicker, and more familiar to the listeners. The abundance of intensifiers such as very and much and to and so, unbelievable, great, incredible. Intensifiers actually are used for two main stylistic functions. First, to exaggerate in order to make the hearer or the hearers believe the speaker, and to reflect an emotive feeling on behalf both of them. All right, so when we use words of intensifiers like too much, or that was so good, or I like it, it was great, so we use actually all these intensifiers in order to make our speech more appealing and more interesting and exciting to the listener. Now, if we move on to adverbs, adverbs of all types are actually used in spoken English. They are very much commonplace. And the most distinguishing feature of the use of adverbs is their mobility. Now, we know that in written form, we have a very strict actually code of rules as when it comes to the use of adverbs in sentences. But this isn't actually the same in spoken English, because in spoken English, adverbs of all types can occur anywhere in the utterance, in front, middle, or final position. So they could be before or after a word in relation to adverb use. Now, the function of this flexibility of mobility is to emphasize any word in the utterance at will. Okay, so it's completely fine to use them in different situations and in different positions in our speech. Adverbs of place and time, manner, frequency, and reason are widely used in conversation. Because people would always prefer defining the time, location, number of times, reasons for doing things and saying some things. And secondly, adverbs of certainty and agreement, they come actually in the second place because they are very common. Okay, so adverbs of certainty and agreement, such as naturally, of course, certainly, sure, surely, definitely. Okay, and they stylistic function of using these adverbs of certainty and agreement is that it makes a kind of a consensus between the speaker and the listener. Okay, it's like, yes, we agree, yes, our thoughts can accord and we can go on with our conversation. Alright, so thirdly comes adverbs of contrast, like for example, in fact, in a matter of fact, on the contrary, and so on. Generally, adverbs are indispensable to speakers because they help them to express themselves better and in a precise way, and they communicate each other emotionally, draw closer to one another, especially in conjunction with adverbs of agreement and certainty. That's why, like, if we listen to people, they would always like try to show like yes, we understand each other, that there is a kind of accordance between us. So that's why there is like a heavy actually focus on these words, that is to say adverbs of certainty and agreement. Now, in terms of proforms and personal pronouns, pronouns are words replacing others, all right, especially personal pronouns, which are highly used and frequently used, such as I, we, and you. Okay, these three types of pronouns are very commonplace in speech. In fact, they are the most popular proforms in conversation. Remember that proform simply means pronouns, okay? Words that refer to the speakers. However, you can be singled out as the most used and recurrent of all for one main reason. So, yes, I, we, and you are very recurrent, but the most used proform is you. Okay, the pronoun you. Now, why the pronoun you is the most used adverb in spoken English? Because first of all, to inject conversation with intimacy by getting speakers involved with hearers in shared knowledge of something in expressions like, you see, you can say something like that, you expect something like that. So okay, so because actually the conversation is happening between these two people, between the speaker and the interlocutor, so the pronoun you is always actually recurrent and strongly commonplace in these instances, or in this variety of language. The insistence on the use of personal pronouns and other proforms such as this and that and these and those has the function of stressing the subjectivity, informality, and intimacy of spoken English. Okay, so we usually actually use these proforms because it gives us a touch of intimacy and subjectivity as well as informality in English speech. Now, vocabulary stylistic analysis. So you will be actually going to page 46 or 46, the English of conversation. Several lexical actually features stand out in conversation. Informality colors almost all of them. So here is a detailed analysis of the vocabulary of spoken English. So let's jump in and find out more about vocabulary in spoken English. First of all, we have colloquialism, and I'm not sure if you are familiar with this term or not, but colloquialism actually, or colloquial words, are expressions that are stylistic features, which in addition to informal grammar distinguishes this variety of English from the other written more formal varieties. Okay, so colloquial simply means very informal. Okay, so colloquial means the opposite of formal. Okay, so using for example slang words or street words, that shows that our language is colloquial. And so one of the aspects of spoken English is that it's very colloquial, or the kind of diction or wording used is colloquial. It's completely informal. It's completely not formal. All right. So colloquialism include the following. First of all, what are the aspects of colloquial language? How can I know that this language is colloquial or not? First of all, we have contractions. Contractions such as isn't, haven't, hasn't, won't, and will not. That is to say, we are not using the full forms of these words. Okay, words such as do not, we say don't. Okay, so this actually mimics the language of it's spoken language. It's how we speak. We do not say like I have not received, for example, your email. Usually we say I haven't received your email. Okay, so I haven't, that's a colloquial expression, and it is actually colloquial because we have a contraction here. I'm not saying the full form of this word. I have not uh, received your email. So I simply say I haven't received your email. All right. So shan't, shall not, she has, or she is, or she was. Hit, it could be he would or he had. Cause, simply because. Okay, so cause I went there, cause I needed to talk to you. So cause is a contracted form of the word because. Okay, even or even, ain't actually is a word that is highly inclusive. It simply, ain't actually stands for isn't, or hasn't, or are not, have not, am not. Okay, so it stands for five forms actually. So it's purely American English, and if you like notes that it is highly used, and for example in the movies, all right, so they use it because maybe they do not use it in the writing form, but they surely use it in their spoken form. There are many examples that can be traced in A and B. Colloquial words and expressions. So these are some examples found in extracts A and B. Study these examples with me. A bit, what's his name? That means whose name is temporarily forgotten. Digs means university halls. Doing physics means studying physics. Get dragged means be involved. Feverishly, excitingly, or desperately. To not appear, not to appear. They are brains, it means intellectual or intelligent. Stick together, that is stick or keep company. Another aspect of colloquialism or colloquial words is the fixed phrases and expressions. Phrases and expressions are widely actually used in spoken English. So these can be idioms and collocations, catchy phrases and sayings in colloquial English that are unchangeable and used in familiar popular forms. For examples, for example, actually from extract C and B, to get hold of George, that means to see or to meet him. Not much about, it means rarely seen, that is an extract 40, line 40. Where on earth, I can't remember. To have nothing in common, that is to share nothing. Squeeze something out of you, exert expression on someone, to take something from him. All right, so to keep in touch means to contact. To be on my own way means to be, or to be on my own simply means to be also. To have something in common means to share something. To look brains, it means you look intellectual, or you have an intellectual ability. Phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are also another aspect or characteristic of colloquial language. Phrasal verbs are verbs followed by an adverb or preposition to give combinations with new meanings. For example, the word take has a new meaning when followed by either of the two prepositions, like on or off. To take on your coat, please, means dress your coat, or take off your coat simply means undress your coat. So take on and take off have completely new meanings which are different from the original meaning of take alone. In fact, there are more than one function for the use of colloquialism in spoken English. To stress the informal style of speech, to reflect the random and spontaneous nature of conversation, to establish intimacy and close social ties among interlocutors. So, colloquial expressions are resorted by speakers to create an agreeable emotional atmosphere among people. This is your home assignment due next week. So analyze the material on page 68 in terms of the following characteristics that we covered in this lecture: adjectives, adverbs, proforms, and personal pronouns, colloquialism. Thanks for your attention. See you next week.